Welcome back to Cooley Loves Comic Books. For this episode, I want to tell you about Doctor Aphra. Let's see. So Doctor Aphra is a character that was created by Kieron Gillen. She first appeared in Darth Vader #3. She was in a few issues there of Darth Vader. She appeared in a couple other issues of Star Wars comics. And then basically she's kind of got some momentum and became an interesting character, and then she got her own solo series. So for the first volume, it was written pretty much by Kieron Gillen, but then also with Spurrier. There's somewhere where Kieron Gillen and Spurrier, they worked together for a few arcs, and then I believe Spurrier wrote the last arc, or at least is credited as writing the last arc. But I think pretty much from the middle on to the end, I get the impression that Kieron Gillen and Spurrier were working together on the story arcs and kind of trading off on who had the primary writing duties. But those are two of my favorite authors. I love Kieron Gillen's work. Read a lot of stuff from Spurrier that I've liked. I'm a Star Wars fan, but I kind of was slow to pick up Doctor Aphra. I will say I'm an original trilogy person. As you can see, I got my Han Shot First shirt on. I am firmly in the Han Shot First group. I have the THX version of the original trilogy on Laserdisc because that's the version I like. I like the theatrical version. I don't like the revised versions. I'm not a fan of the prequels. I like episode 7 alright, but not 8 and 9. Though interestingly, I really like Rogue One and Solo: A Star Wars Story. And I love The Mandalorian. In kind of watching those movies and watching The Mandalorian, what I realize is I really like the Star Wars universe. I really like, the original trilogy. But I like the broader universe. And what I really like about Rogue One, Solo, and The Mandalorian, all three of those offshoots really explore and fill out the Star Wars world a lot more than just kind of like the narrow part of the Star Wars universe that we get to see with, Han, Leia, Luke, and the main cast of characters. And the way that they fill that universe out it's a fascinating universe with lots of depth and lots of complexity to it. So, liking Spurrier, liking Kieron Gillen, I picked up the first couple issues of Doctor Aphra, and I read it, but it didn't grab me at the time. And then I kept hearing more and more about it. Watched Mandalorian, really enjoyed that. Then this omnibus came out for Doctor Aphra, and I decided to make the leap and pick it up, and I'm very glad that I did. It really grabbed me, and that was the motivation to make this video, because I really wanted to talk about Doctor Aphra, get something out there just in case there's anybody else that has missed it, or that was on the fence, or if maybe like me you read the first couple issues but it didn't grab you and you didn't go through and read more of it. Because man, it's fascinating on a number of levels. Yeah, so basically everything in the Doctor Aphra first arc here, it occurs between episodes 4 and 5. So it's after New Hope but before Empire. You have a lot of the cast of characters, the main cast of characters, pop up in the comic from time to time. And Aphra is an archaeologist. She is a fascinating character into and of herself. It's the two things that I loved about this book. Well, actually, there's a lot that I loved about it, but her character being an archaeologist and the archaeological exploration, like going back in history, looking for ancient Jedi artifacts, and so forth, is done so well in this book, and it's just a fascinating part of the Star Wars universe that absolutely needs to be explored. We have such a small view of who the Jedi are and what they're doing and why and stuff. The way that this goes back and explores a lot of that early history through artifacts and so forth is really cool. And then you have Aphra's character in and of herself. She is fascinating. She is a pure chaotic neutral character, meaning that she is not governed by anything other than what is in her own best self-interest at any given time. And that means that her compass can align with with the Empire. Obviously she starts in Darth Vader, the Rebels, with some of the underground in the Star Wars universe, or who knows what. She really kind of follows her own path, to say the least, but in just a really interesting way. I mean, she's very smart. She's always a step ahead, 3 steps ahead, until she isn't. And I was reading a really interesting interview with Kieron Gillen and Spurrier that I think was done right about the time they were writing issues number 18, 19, 20, something like that, like towards the end of this first volume. And so Kieron Gillen had said that, when he came up with the character and put her in Darth Vader, she's helping Vader out. But what she's doing with Vader, he's like, well, I mean, Vader's going to have to kill her. Really, that was his intent, and the story went on, and Aphra did what she did, and gets to this point, and he realizes, wait a minute, Aphra has actually given herself an out. Like, she basically is the character, the way that he created her, the way that she had acted. He realized that there was actually a through path for her, a way out that he hadn't intended or expected, but even she, as the writer, she surprised him, and obviously that she got out of that sticky situation and carried on and basically ended up getting her own series here. But I mean, that's the kind of character that she is. She just kind of she's surprising to read. Sometimes because of how far ahead she is, or the planning. A lot of times it's because she does not always get things right. She's complicated. There's a lot of depth in her character, and man, sometimes it's hard to flip the next page and read what she's doing, because you really hope that she's not going to do what you think she's going to do, and then you see her start to do it, and then she does something you didn't think that she was going to do, but it's even worse than what you thought she was going to do, and then you flip the page and you have to see how it unfolds. So it's really a fascinating read, and the writing from Gillen and Spurrier is just top notch for sure. It's not all about Aphra though too. She's got a lot of supporting characters that are kind of with her in the story. When we meet her, she is stealing something called the 000 Matrix, which is a programming for a protocol droid like 3PO. And it was a program that was destroyed, or thought destroyed, and of course she gets it, and then she puts it into a protocol droid that looks exactly like 3PO, but he is designed for protocol, torture, and murder. He's basically a murder droid. And 000 is almost as, I'd say, okay, he's equally as fascinating as Doctor Aphra. And I would also say that he certainly takes on a life of his own, to say the least, and he is a fascinating villain. I would say, in fact, he is probably the best and most fascinating villain of any of them that I've seen in the Star Wars universe. She gets a blastromech when she gets 000 set up, called BT-1. He looks like an astromech, but he's armed to the teeth, and the way that 000 or Trip and BT-1 interact, I mean, it's basically an evil version of 3PO and R2. It's very cool, and it's really good to read. And again, 000 is just an amazing villain for sure. Another one of the kind of supporting characters, or people that help Aphra out. She has a Wookiee ally. I guess maybe ally's probably too strong a term. But his name is Black Chrysanthemum. And he's really interesting because it's a completely different view of a Wookiee from anything that I've seen, and we get to see what his origin story is. That's explored in Aphra Volume 1, or Doctor Aphra Volume 1. So it's a totally different view of Wookiee's role, how Wookiees are viewed in other cultures or in other worlds in the Star Wars universe, and it's a really interesting story in and of himself. Again, so Dr. Aphra takes place between episodes 4 and 5. So a lot of the main characters like Han, Leia, Luke, Chewie, there's points where they appear. They're part of the story of Dr. Aphra's story. But there's another really interesting character from the main trilogy that you would probably know, that pops up. If you remember in episode 4, when Luke walks into the bar in Tatooine and bumps into the guy that has the death sentence in 12 systems. So that is Dr. Cornelius Evazan. And towards the end of Volume 1, he becomes a main character, and he is really interesting as well. He is a villain. He's a fascinating villain. And he and 000 kind of overlap, and in a really interesting way. And the last few issues, like 25, 26, and like one of the later arcs, is just it takes a turn, and man, it is really cool. It's something. It's just a really interesting situation that Aphra finds herself in with 000, and well worth a read. So basically, I mean, you have these archaeological aspects of the story. You know, she is an archaeologist. Her father was an archaeologist. Her father was obsessed with old Jedi artifacts, or something called the Ordo Aspectu, which you explore. That's really cool. These characters are just fascinating, and the world exploration and the worlds that you get to see are just really interesting. And all the people that Aphra meets and interacts with, and all of her adventures are truly adventures and are truly just fun and interesting to read. So basically, the reason I wanted to make this video is because, again, I read a couple issues of Doctor Aphra. It didn't initially grab me, and then I went back and read the whole thing. And if there's anybody out there that's watching this that's curious about Doctor Aphra, or that's in a similar situation where it just didn't quite grab you initially, I just wanted to make this to encourage you to go back. You know, if you can, get the omnibus. If you've got Marvel Unlimited, you know, and you can go back and read some of these stories. It's one of these. For me, it was the ability to sit down and read all of these arcs all at once. This is what made all the difference. You know, so that once I got hooked, I could get all the way to the end, flip the page, see what the next arc was going to be, get hooked again, and do it all over again. And I'm so glad that I did. She's definitely one of my favorite characters. And you know, if there's any character in the Star Wars universe that is due you know, their own series or deeper exploration, you know, with a show or some such, man, to me, Doctor Aphra is it, because it just she checks all the right boxes for an interesting character and for an exploration of the Star Wars universe that really will broaden the world, you know, and fill in a lot of the details that we want to know, you know. So yeah, that's why I want to make the video. Hopefully I've said enough or piqued your curiosity enough for you to check her out. Check out maybe, you know, the omnibus or some of these arcs, and hopefully you like it. So thanks very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Until next time, I'm going to read some comic books, and you should do that too. Take care.